Brother Eric John Phelps with 24/7 World Radio Podcast tonight at 6 o'clock on this beautiful day of July the 10th, 2025. And I have with me once again our Brother Fernando Castaneda, and we're going to continue on the details of this Texas flooding because he contacted me today and said he has more information and more details than he would because he's worked with these people, he knows them, he knows the gamut of the government, um, how it works with these matters, and what they didn't do, which elicits a conspiracy once again. So, a conspiracy of Counter-Reformation Jesuit order and destroying white Anglo-Saxon Protestants and Baptists, Calvinists of Texas, and any other place they can destroy them by any means necessary. So, delightful to have Brother Fernando back to continue to update us and give us more information. So, Brother Fernando, welcome to the broadcast.
Well, thank you, Brother Eric, and hello to the dear listeners and the dear brethren listening to this broadcast. And I pray the Lord bless it.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so you contacted me today and said that you had more information and you have some new ideas, and I think between the two broadcasts, nobody needs to listen to anything else because I believe you nailed it. And so I will simply ask you to give your narration of what you found, and then I may ask a question here or there. So go ahead, brother.
Sure, and I guess I'll start by recapping.
Hmm.
What has occurred since July 4th. It was an obvious flooding there in the hill country of Texas, Kerr County, Kerrville, city of Kerrville, the city of Ingram, the city of Hunt, and so the National Weather Service had issued a flash flood warning, not a watch. I'm sure we all could discern the difference of watches, just be on the alert. But a warning is it's coming. It's coming. And so the
So they warned.
warning,
So they warned on what day?
the morning of July 4th
Okay.
at 1:14 in the morning.
Okay.
So people were receiving cell phone messages and warnings, and those that had the NOAA radio. Have you ever heard the NOAA radio? It's
I think so.
specific for it's
You
specific for
mentioned that in our
weather.
yeah, you mentioned that in our last broadcast that the
Yeah.
police and firemen they have those special phones.
Well, anyone can have the satellite phones is what you're probably referring to. The sat they call them sat phones.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They issue those to all officials, first responders, because as we all know, the cell phones go down. The service goes down.
Hmm.
So these flood warning messages were going out at 1:14, according to the National Weather Service. And the director of the Texas Emergency Management Organization Division, Nim Kidd, had stated that he had dispatched and staged rescue teams, water rescue teams, with the boats and the equipment and rescue equipment and firefighters specializing in rescue tactics and skills. He had dispatched and staged them throughout the corridor. He was talking about the flood corridor. So from Kerr County to other counties east, like east of Austin and east of IH 35, for those that are familiar with the highway infrastructure in Texas. So he explained that he had dispatched rescue crews throughout the night the
And what,
night before.
and what time did he dispatch these rescue crews?
These were dispatched the evening of the 3rd.
Oh, so he dispatched his rescue crews the evening of the 3rd. when on the 4th, early in the morning,
the early morning of the 4th.
the 4th, we get you get the warning.
Yes,
So,
114. So he was doing his job. But the one thing that struck me after our first broadcast, brother, was that I've been retired now for 3 years. So all these protocols, they tend to, you dump them. Your mind just dumps them when you don't use them anymore.
mhm.
You're not on the job anymore, so you just start forgetting all these. Well, it struck me that in a hurricane situation, which I've worked with many times before in the past, if y'all remember Hurricane Harvey and all those hurricanes that came out of the Gulf, we would set up shelters proactively before the hurricane would hit land.
So did this
So we would
guy, so did this guy that you mentioned, what was his name again?
NIM kid.
Kim, did he set up shelters?
No, there
So he
was no
was,
shelters
so he
shut
was,
up.
so he was supposed to set up shelters, but he didn't do it.
Well, and that's the other thing. This is flooding. It's different from a hurricane, but it's still a catastrophe.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the availability was there. The logistics always include shelters. So in this particular case, it wasn't a hurricane, it was a flood, but there was a large amount of people involved. We had 3 cities: Kerrville, which the population, I believe, is, I want to say 25,000 or 85,000. Don't quote me on that. There's a lot of people there. But then there's another town, Hunt, and another town, Ingram. They're very small towns, lower thousands, but we're talking thousands of people. So naturally, in an evacuation, especially a flood or tornadoes or a hurricane, you would open up shelters. That's the procedure and protocols, the standard operating procedures. You'd open shelters. And during the hurricane situation, we would proactively open up shelters utilizing schools or gymnasiums or even um, vacant real estate buildings that were vacant. We would gain access by contacting the owner, and the owner, of course, was going to get reimbursed. You all got reimbursed by the state. Everybody gets their money, so you don't have to worry about that. This was a budgeted affair. But getting back to the shelters, I just don't understand why they couldn't utilize. Oh, and by the way, 501c3 churches were also used. They would also throw their hat in the ring and open up their churches
Mhm.
for recipients.
So looking at this now, this gentleman, when he uh, began to act late on July 3rd, and his name again is
Well, he didn't act late, but his name is Nim Kid.
Nim Kid.
Yeah,
And so
he
what
did
did
an excellent job in rescuing. The whole first responder did an excellent job in rescuing people the best they could. And
yeah, well, I don't want to go there yet. I
no,
want to I want to go chronologically here now that this Nim Kid, you said on the night of the 3rd, began to set up something. What did he start to do?
yeah, he set up the fire crews and
He set up
staged them.
he set up the fire
But he
crews and staged them. But
but he also should have set up.
but my question is, why didn't he start to set up shelters at that time also?
And that is the other thing, brother. The press is not pressing them with these appropriate questions.
Okay, so my point is that he should have, at that time, late the 3rd, began to get these shelters in place, correct?
Correct. He should have had churches. We utilize churches.
Sure,
And
sure,
gosh,
sure. But my point is that he didn't do it.
It wasn't done. He didn't do it. We did this in the past.
And this was protocol. This is what
This was
common going
protocol.
to. So he broke protocol and did not set up these shelters. So
Of
therefore, he's
course.
guilty of a terrible crime here. Correct?
Not only him, but the governor, but especially the local officials of Kerr County, Kerrville, Ingram, and Hunt.
So the local officials knew better on the
Yes.
night of the 3rd to set up shelters, and they didn't do it either. Is that what you're saying?
It was their people, brother. It was their folks. If I was the mayor, if I was the city manager, if I was the fire chief, if I was the police chief, and that's another thing, brother, in our first broadcast, I failed to mention in all of the press conference I've been held in Kerr County, the fire chief and the police chief have not made an appearance in the press conference in Kerr County.
And they should have set up shelters on the night of the 3rd, correct?
Of course,
So here are
it is.
let me
It's a standard operating procedure, brother.
police chief and the other guy, who was it?
The fire chief.
The fire chief and the police chief, that are standard operating procedures to set up shelters. They should have been setting them up on the night of the 3rd when the other gentleman was beginning to set up other things. So they didn't do it. They broke protocol and they didn't set up shelters. So this is what we have: is a conspiracy, probably a Masonic conspiracy,
I agree, brother.
where they all conspired not to set up these shelters to get as much death and destruction as possible. Is that a legitimate conclusion?
It is, brother, especially after the fact. And you can go back to all the YouTube videos ever since this engineered weather catastrophe occurred. The fire chief and the police chief were never present at the press conference there in Kerrville.
So what we have is a massive conspiracy on the part of the people who caused the flooding, in conjunction with the people who refused to set up shelters.
Yes.
There's poor people so that they would be killed. Does that fit the facts?
It is so obvious, brother, and it bothers me so much to see that the media is being controlled in their questioning.
Oh, well, that's par for the course. I mean, you and I have investigated the Kennedy assassination and other things, and the media is hush hush. I mean, it's just like Trump going hush hush on the Epstein files now. You mean to tell me you're talking about that? We're going on. So you got to the Pope's media is controlled, deliberately withholding the facts that this this Mr. Kidd late on the 3rd was putting things in place for the flood, but refused to set up shelters. That's the first red herring.
Well, he never set up shelters.
Yeah, he never set them up. He refused to set up. He did not do it.
And no one is questioning him or the city, the local officials of Kerrville on why shelters weren't set up before everyone went to bed. Because the weather forecast,
yes,
when everyone went to bed on July 3rd, was forecasting a flood.
Mm-hmm.
So normally when that occurs,
let me finish. So has anybody put that question to them on the news?
No.
So no media has put that question to them?
No, and if they have, no one has followed up with it. Because I go back and try to read online, because you know the news media always puts a story after each press conference. So I go back and try to read the notes of all the local media outlets on what was said during the press conference, and the media gives their opinion. I haven't seen anything about shelters that could have been set up prior. No pre-evacuation notices. What they did mention, and I mentioned this in the first broadcast, was that when it was already too late, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock,
In the
the
morning of
first responders were
in the morning of the 4th.
in the morning of the 4th, when the devastation has already occurred and everything was underwater. The emergency vehicles were utilizing their PA systems inside their vehicles to notify. By that time, it was too late.
Right.
People had already been awoken by the flooding waters going into their cabins,
Yep.
into their RVs,
Right.
into their homes.
Yep. I think we covered that. What we want to cover here now are the facts that prove conspiracy. So the first fact that proves conspiracy is that Mr. Kidd, is that his name, Kidd?
Yes.
And what is he now?
He's the director of the emergency management in Texas. He's been the director, I guess, close to 20 years now, 15 years. 20.
So this Mr. Kidd, on the night of the 3rd, begins to set up what?
Shelters.
Oh, Mr. Kidd starts to set up shelters on the 3rd.
Yes. For anyone in the flood area who wishes to stay in these shelters to save their own lives. That's basically what we did during these hurricane seasons.
So, but this is late at night on the 3rd, like what, 12 o'clock, something like that?
Well, he could have opened up the shelters. We would open them up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So by the time everyone got off of work and they realized that the hurricane was coming during that night or the following morning, we would give them an opportunity to batten down the hatches, so to speak, at their homes, take their personal belongings,
Right, but
and come to the shelter.
why, sure. But what I'm saying is this happened on the 3rd. And you
Yes.
said it was forecast of a flood coming on the 3rd. So
Yes.
if they were forecasting a flood coming on the 3rd, and this Mr. Kidd did not set up shelters on the 3rd, on the night of the 3rd, when he should have, then here's a fact that this director of the Texas Emergency Management Agency deliberately broke protocol and did not set up shelters. Is that correct?
That is correct. And not only him, but was working alongside of the local officials of Kerrville.
Yeah, I'll get to them. Broke
Okay.
protocol and did not set up shelters. So now the others that went along with him in this, who were the others that went along with him in this?
Well, the others are the governor, Abbott,
Governor?
Dan Patrick, lieutenant governor. And then, of course, you had the mayor of Kerrville.
Yeah, just slow down. Lieutenant Governors Dan Patrick. And then we have who else?
Well, you had the mayor of Kerrville.
Of Kerrville. And who else?
The fire chief of Kerrville.
Fire chief of Kerrville. Anybody else?
Sure, the police chief.
Police chief. Kerrville.
And then the others that sat in on the initial press conference was the sheriff.
The sheriff of Kerrville.
Of Kerr County, because sheriffs are sheriffs of the county.
Sheriff of which county?
Kerr County.
Kerr County.
Which is Kerrville.
Kerrville is located in Kerr County.
Yes.
So he didn't.
And then a local judge, I guess he's a county judge, and the city manager of Kerrville, they all sat initially in the first press conference. minus the fire chief and the police chief. That's the other thing that I consider very suspicious when they're the two officials that should be present. They're the fire chief and the police chief, for crying out loud.
Sure. So what we have is on the night of the 3rd, when it was reported that a flood was coming to Kerrville, Governor Abbott knew it, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick knew it, the mayor of Kerrville knew it, the fire chief of Kerrville knew it, the police chief of Kerrville knew it, the sheriff of Kerr County knew it, the local county judge, which I've seen him, seems like a very arrogant individual, local county judge, he knew it, of Kerr County, and the city manager of Kerrville. So is it safe to say that all these individuals knew that a flood was coming?
Of course.
Okay, because it was announced the night of the 3rd.
Yes. There was a strong possibility for flooding in this area.
So
A strong possibility. That's what all the weather news stations were reporting when you went to bed.
But
Well,
nothing had been done yet. Nothing had been done. No shelters were set up. Right?
No shelters were set up. Only the emergency management rescue water crews were being dispatched by NIM-KID.
NIM-KID, N-I-M KID.
K-I-D-D.
K-I-D-D, NIM-KID. Sounds like an Asian name, but he's not. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, and protocol is to set up shelters when the announcement that a flood is coming. They should have set up shelters, and even more than that, they should have went on a mass warning of the people in the targeted area. You need to get out of here before the flood comes because it's coming. And nobody warned them, correct?
Well, that's just it, brother. When it officially came through the National Weather Service at 1:14 a.m. on the morning of July 4th, and remember, 1:14 a.m., the majority of us are fast asleep. That's when the local officials of Kerr County and the city of Kerrville, city of Ingram, city of Hunt should have kicked in and started notifying their residents and going to all the campgrounds and telling them there's a flash flood coming. We strongly advise to evacuate.
And that was
naturally.
And that was Kerrville and what other towns?
Ingram and Hunt.
And Ingram.
Yes.
Okay, so at 1:14, there was an official announcement from the National Weather Service that a flood was coming.
Yes.
Okay.
Flash flood warning.
Flash flood warning. We get those here too. So with the flash flood warning, they immediately should have gone to work at 1:14 in the morning of the 4th and warned the people of Kerrville, Hunt, and Ingram. But they did not do that. Is that
no? And remember, on our previous broadcast, the city manager went jogging at 3:15 in the morning.
So the city manager of Kerrville went jogging.
And he went jogging along the area that was hit.
Well, he went jogging. By this time, what is it, 3:30?
He said it was drizzling slightly and the river looked fine.
Okay, what's that 1 hour period that the river rose 20 feet? What's that 1 hour from?
3:45 to 4 o'clock, the river rose 20 feet.
In 15 minutes?
15 to 30 minutes, the river rose 20 feet. Brother, you call that a flash flooding?
Okay, let me get this. From 3:45 to 4:15?
3:45 to 4 o'clock.
That's 15 minutes.
Right.
So in 15 minutes, It rose 20 feet. I thought it was an hour that it took to rise.
No, it was 30 minutes, really. From 3:30 when the city manager was jogging to 4 o'clock, it rose 20 feet.
20
And
feet.
eventually rose 30 feet in an hour or so.
Okay. So here the city manager is there down at the river right before it starts to rise, and he's jogging there at 3:30 in the morning.
Yes.
So it looks to me like he is there as the city manager watching as it's unfolding. And but of course, he doesn't say anything to the people there at that time, does he?
Well, he only appeared once in the initial press conference and he hasn't showed up after that.
That's not my question. At 3:30 in the morning, when he was jogging, did he decide to warn anybody or not?
No, no,
So while
no.
he's jogging, he's out there looking, he warns no one.
Well, because he said everything looked fine. But, brother, they showed it on video where the river looked fine and then a wall of water comes immediately
I see.
down the river, which is called flash flooding.
Right.
And the whole purpose of warnings, especially flash flooding warnings, is because this wall of water, it's like a wave when you're at the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
it's a continual wave that keeps coming.
right. So, and they should know that because they already had the warning of flash flooding. So
Yes,
at 3:30, when it didn't happen, he still had the warning of flash flooding. And so he could have warned people, we're getting flash flooding here shortly, but he didn't, right?
that's correct, brother. And another thing that is very essential, very important to local communities, and I shared this with you in the phone call. I believe it's part of Homeland Security, Patriot Act, after the '01 event in New York, that every state and county and city community is supposed to have an emergency operations center.
Every state, city, and county is to have an
Yes.
operations center.
Yes. And also, it's not mandatory for private industry, but the private industry has gone along with it too, and they have created and built and developed their own internal emergency operations centers. And I'll give you an example of a local industry here in my town, USAA. USAA Insurance Giant and Federal Credit Union has a corporate headquarters here. And they have an internal emergency operations center. And it's very elaborate and very high tech because they have all the profit margin to build such a elaborate operation. Well, Kerr County did not admit or mention in their press conference that they had an emergency operations center activated. They didn't even mention it. And the press,
And the one who would have mentioned that should have been the mayor.
of course.
He should have mentioned that Kerr County operations were active and going, but he does the same thing. The what we're getting to is it's undeniable that all these men, all these white men,
Yes, they are.
are the Pope's white power structure. I would venture to say all of them and tied to some secret society, whether it be Masonic or Knights of Columbus or Bones or whatever, but they're all tied to some secret society because they're operating under a common order, not to alert the people or to set up places where they could flee to. And in the face of a flash flood warning that they knew was coming, and if they would have evacuated the people and it didn't happen, well, that's still okay. At least they didn't get hurt. But to not evacuate them with that warning and all these various different men doing this, you cannot have a lone nut. There has to be a group of men responsible for this. And the big question is now, remember, the power to cause a crisis or the power to cause an assassination or a flood by certain men is not as great as the power to cover it up over a period of time. Like the Kennedy assassination, they've covered that up for what, 60 years, 65 years, something like that. So that's the real power. The real power was not in killing him. The real power was to keep it covered up. And so we should be looking for the unfolding of this. Who is going to talk about it? Who is going to say anything? Are all these guys untouchable? Is not any of these men going to be blamed for this by the press or by the preachers or by somebody? And I tend to think if this is an organized conspiracy, which it has to be, none of these guys are going to be blamed, except there could be one fall guy. Like in the George Floyd thing, they're going to use that one guy, Derek Chauvin, they'll make him a fall guy for all the other involved in that crime, which of course Floyd wasn't killed. So this is their modus operandi. They have their conspiracy, and just as the movie JFK says with David Ferrie, there's got to be one sacrifice. There has to be a patsy. Well, they used Oswald. So there's probably going to be a patsy here. And who do you think they're going to choose for the patsy?
Well, since you mentioned that about a scapegoat, when they had the first press conference, which I believe was the second one, when Christine Nome, Secretary Christine Nome of FEMA, she showed up here on the next day.
That's Christine Nome.
Christine Nome. She showed up on the 5th. And
showed up on the 5th, the day after.
The day after.
And what did she
you know, everybody was hobnobbing, sucking up to her, you could tell. But I noticed her body language when the county judge spoke. You can look this up on YouTube during that conference. Christy Nome leaned over to Nim, kid, and whispered something in his ear as the judge was speaking. And you could tell her body language. She did not like the judge. So I'm venturing to guess that the judge is going to be used as the scapegoat. He looked like he's not a very well-liked individual. So you could look back on that, dear listeners and dear brethren, just look back at the second news conference. YouTube has them all. They're all on YouTube. But and I looked at it recently, and I can't find when she's leaning over. It's like YouTube removed that part. So don't be surprised if you can't find it. It was so obvious during the live video. She leaned over, and Nim Kid kind of was taken aback by it, by his body language. He arched his back like he was shocked at what she just whispered to him in his ear. And so I'm thinking, because, you know, brother, I was in that crowd, brother. And I was getting PTSD just from watching it because, oh, my goodness, all the sycophant going on and all the backstabbing going on. And so it could be the county judge.
It could be the county judge. Well, I remember watching him in his interview, answering questions. And he was kind of short and terse,
Yes,
and not explicative of what was happening. And he just wanted to get through the questions, it seems.
Yep.
And which betrays to me something more to the picture than he would let on to.
Well, it could be he wasn't playing along with this huge conspiracy.
Could be.
And he probably wanted to spill the beans. Who knows?
Yeah. Just like Patel and Dan Bongino both now are stating that Epstein killed himself in his cell. Now, we know that those two men did not believe that for a long time, so they've changed their stories. So
Well, just like Pam Bondi has changed her story now.
yeah. So her story was that she had all the files, but
And the videos.
now she doesn't have them.
Well, the videos were just child pornography before, where she said they were with child pornography with Epstein. Epstein was with the children, everyone else. It wasn't just children, it was the adults with
Yeah, it
them.
was adults, sure. So,
No, no, it's just
so
children. That's all she said. It's just
but the
children.
point being is not what the contents were.
Yeah.
But the point is that the contents have disappeared.
Yeah. Now
Just
everything's disappeared. You're right.
just like JFK's brain, it
Yes.
disappeared.
Yeah.
Just like the 18 minutes, 20 minutes of the Watergate tapes, they disappeared. So
Yeah.
they're disappearing evidence deliberately to hide it and to keep from anybody being brought to justice about it. So I think in conclusion with this, brother, that we need to conclude that all these men, Abbott, Dan Patrick, Mayor of Kerrville, Fire Chief of Kerrville, Police Chief of Kerrville, Sheriff of Kerr County, local county judge, City Manager of Kerrville, all these men were somehow involved in this horrible, terrible event to kill off probably hundreds of people because they haven't found another 100 or so.
Yeah. It's just under 200 right now, the missing.
Mhm.
But I would think as these days go by, people are going to start saying, "Hey, look, I haven't heard from my friend, or I
Mhm.
haven't heard from my cousin." There's going to be other people coming up and saying, "I haven't heard from so and so for a while. I
Yeah.
think they're missing from the flood."
Yeah.
So and the numbers are going to go up, brother. Whether they're going to report them
Yeah.
as factual or not,
Yeah.
it remains to be seen.
That's right. So, in conclusion, I want to thank you, brother, for further reinforcing the fact that this flooding was a conspiracy of a magnitude likened to the same magnitude of the killing of Kennedy. I mean, it's Washington's involved, Austin's involved, the Kerr County's involved, the press is involved. We're not getting the truth as to who was responsible for being negligent in setting up these places of shelters and not warning the people, and also the phones going out, as you said. There was no
Yes,
phone reception, and
there's no cell service.
that's exactly what happened in the Kennedy assassination, where the phones went out in Washington D.C. for over an hour, from 12:30 to 1:30, so nobody can talk to anybody. It's the same modus operandi. So it's my prayer that somebody out there would put these facts together and write a short little pamphlet of what happened, who's responsible for not doing their job, who's responsible for not asking the right questions. It's like on the Kennedy assassination, when Garrison in the movies reading the Warren Commission, Warren reporter says,
Exactly.
ask the
Yes,
question. Nobody's asking the right questions. And
that's
so they
exactly right, brother. I wanted to share that also. The media's not pressing the right questions.
yes, yep. So in conclusion, we have to agree, I'm sure you and I agree,
I agree, brother.
this is another design of the Jesuit order in destroying historic white Anglo-Saxon Protestants who are heretics, and also the white Roman Catholic children, because you said many of them were Roman Catholic white girls also, right?
Oh, of course they were, and also the camp that where they all mostly were killed were it was a non-denominational camp, but the political elites such as Ted Cruz and others send their children there, especially their daughters, because it's a girls' camp. And so,
But Ted Cruz didn't have his children there that day, did he?
nope, he removed them. Get this, a
What?
day before.
You're kidding me.
He picked them up a few days before, either a few days before, don't quote me, or a day before. He picked them up and they went to Greece after that.
Now, was that in Kerrville? You picked him up in Kerrville?
Yeah, the camp is in Kerrville.
Picked them up at the
It's in,
camp at Kerrville. What's the name of the camp?
before the flood hit.
Yeah, I got it. And what's the name of the camp again?
Camp Mystic. Even the name is satanic, occultic, brother.
Sure. So Ted Cruz's daughter was there, and he picked her up the day before the flood. And what
The day or the days before, but it was that week because he mentioned it in passing during the press conference, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my goodness! So he was warned this was going to happen, so he picked them up.
makes perfect sense because it's the same exact thing done with Titanic. Before Titanic set sail to the North Atlantic, 55 people canceled their reservations to be on Titanic because they know.
Yeah,
And so it's the very same thing. Here is Ted Cruz, who's a senator from Texas, who had to know
he's a U.S. senator, brother.
a
He's
U.S.
a U.S. senator.
And so he had to know that this was happening. So he takes his daughter out a couple of days before the 4th
Yeah,
that she's not killed. So here we have a possibility that Ted Cruz is involved in this too. Because remember, dear listener, the Republicans and the Democrats in the end all work together to the ends that the Jesuit order wants. So, in conclusion, that was a very good additional fact there, brother. We have all these men involved, all these white men, part of the Pope's white power structure, bringing this about, and we shall see what the aftermath of this is going to be. Whether the land has some natural resource there that the elites want or something. But
well, the reports are already coming out through Alex Jones, brother, and I take him with a grain of salt. But I did look over the documents. They want to turn Kerrville and the whole Kerr County into a smart city.
smart city.
And either they were against it, they were still fighting it, because when you fight against this AI surveillance, mark of the beast system, they destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard about a lithium deposit there underneath, but I did see this documentation where they wanted to build a lithium battery storage facility, and the people voted against it.
And that
This
was
was
that
over
was
a year ago.
that was in Kerrville.
That was in Kerrville. And the folks were scared. No, because it's a contamination. They're worried about getting contaminated, starting fires, and being poisoned.
Well, they
And
pulled that
so,
same thing in that what was that California fire, didn't they? They pulled the
yes.
same thing in that disaster. So they're going to get the lithium. Anyway, our
Well, it was
brother,
North Carolina also.
yes. And by the way, North Carolina is undergoing flooding now, as I understand it.
Brother, Colorado is having 100-degree weather.
Huh.
Colorado is 100-degree weather up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And New Mexico, Ruidosa, they're getting flooded also.
Well, we must conclude that all of this is weather manipulation with their various high technologies, and I mean their meaning the Jesuits and their secret societies, to the end of driving this country into martial law, garrisoning the troops everywhere in these places, and the people will say thank you for the crisis that the Jesuits and their agents have created. So,
Yes, because it's going to create a universal basic income, brother. That's what they're implementing right now in Kerr County. They're opening up a fund to where if you're a business owner or an individual and you've lost your job, sign here and you'll guaranteed a monthly income. They're already doing that.
yeah. Okay, my brother. Here, well, I thank you for all your information that you brought to me and brought to us. And may we just realize there was a conspiracy involved. There's certain men of power that in all these places of power, from the governor to U.S. senator, all these people, as is generally the case. And the press is probably the most vicious and guilty of it all because they're not asking the questions to resolve the matter. And I heard, by the way, MSNBC and CNN is up for sale because nobody watches them anymore. So I wonder if they're getting out of Dodge too. But Anyway, I want to thank you, brother, for being on the broadcast with me today, and I think we're finished unless you have some closing remarks.
Well, I just wanted to let your dear listeners know and the dear brethren know that obviously with this terrible tragedy that obviously could have been prevented. We just need to be personally aware of where we live. Because if they're engineering these types of weather catastrophes, all your neighborhood needs is a good 5 inches, 10 inches of rain, and it floods you out. And so what's happening is these poor people are drowning as they try to leave their home to get out of the flood. So this type of weather engineering is very, very abnormal to the point even going into your vehicle is a death sentence.
Yeah.
So, dear listeners, brethren, just be aware of the possible flooding in your own neighborhood. I mean, I was thinking of just getting some sandbags and just having them put in the garage just for the sake of water not filling up the house.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to start thinking like that.
Yeah, we do.
We have to start pre-planning our daily business because I mean, we may get trapped in a storm and that's it. We're gone. We're done.
Yeah, that's right. A storm that they created.
Yes. I mean, they're even telling us when there is a storm and you're on the highway, people are starting to pull underneath the overpasses, the bridges or the overpasses. Well, the state officials are starting to tell people, drivers, don't do that. Don't do that. So they want you to get caught in the flooding.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean,
Yep. Well,
anyway, that's it, brother.
They're warning on us. Okay, well, Brother Fernando, thanks so much for being with us on the broadcast today. And if people want to get in contact with you, how can they contact you?
Well, they can give me a ring on my cell phone. My cell number is 210-215-4060. Again, that's 210-215-4060. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you, brother. Brother Eric
We
John
love you.
Phelps with 24/7 World Radio Podcast today with Brother Fernando Castaneda. And we have been reviewing the Jesuit Order's deliberate flood in Texas, Kerrville, Hunt, and Kerrville, pardon me, Kerrville, Hunt, and the other town. What was the name of that town?
Ingram
Ingram.
and surrounding communities.
Surrounding communities, and to the end that we might know that this is a conspiracy. They're going to cover it up, and nobody's going to go to jail, and nobody's going to get prosecuted. And when we see that, then we know that it is absolutely a Jesuitical papal conspiracy. If you want to support the podcast, you can send your gifts to rbpbdonate@comcast.net, or you can send your check to RBT, PO Box 306, Newmanstown, Pennsylvania 17073, or you can give a donation at my Cash App at #, Eric, ERIC, John, JON, Phelps, PHELPS. And I'll thank you for your gifts. So until the next time we're on the podcast, may the Lord bless you as you do his will according to his word, the AV 1611 Reformation English Bible.